Hey y'all, welcome back to the BR pajama party. It's been that kind of day, all right? Judge your mom, not me. Listen, today we're going to react to Steve Perry opening up about why he left Journey. We'll discuss more after the break. Let's see what happens.
In 1987, you walk away.
Yeah.
Now, there's been a lot written about this. What can you tell me about walking away that maybe you haven't talked about before?
87.
Well, it was a combination of the passion for music had left me. I could not, find the honest passion for singing. And because of that, I was stepping into some other, dare I say, party behaviors to augment my frustrations. And then I think my voice was also suffering. I think everything started to suffer for me. And it did not help restore my passion for music. So eventually, the feeling just got very clear to me that I need to just stop. And I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was going to do or where I was going to go.
Wow. Okay. This popped up on my YouTube feed, and I was like, the algorithm gods heard y'all in my comments when you were so upset with me. Maybe 2 months ago now, I don't know, some time ago, not too long ago. It was a PDC pick of the week that I react to Journey's. I can't remember the song, but it was their new frontman. Specifically, I was asked to react to that version. I didn't pick that version. It was a request, and over on PDC they vote, and that was the winner. And so the tomatoes were being thrown at me like, we don't respect this. The only Journey frontman we respect is Steve Perry. And I was ignorantly, very ignorantly, just assumed Steve Perry had left the earth, because why would the frontman of Journey leave Journey willingly? Like, it didn't even cross my mind that this man just left the group. Didn't even cross my mind. Well, y'all had a field day. And I went back over on Patreon. I let them have it. I'm like, why y'all set me up like that? Wow. They set me up. They set me up to fail. Anyway, I totally understand, because I feel the same way. Like, let me think. What's a good example? I think like when Destiny's Child broke up and they bought the two girls in, and then it finally became Michelle. I think Michelle had it really hard. Like, people really weren't trying to accept her. Now she's, queen. But there are certain people that I get it, groups that I'm like, I won't accept that. So I totally understand, but I think it was a coupling of my ignorance and my just fulfilling a promise and commitment to my Patreon family. All right. So you guys let me know he is alive and well. And the fact that this popped up, I'm like, oh, I get to hear from his own mouth and perspective. Now listen to me. Nothing is more selfless than a person that will walk away from something that is benefiting them financially, fame. Like, there were good things coming to him, but he recognized that this was not serving him. It wasn't serving his mental. It wasn't serving his passion tank. It wasn't serving his vocal cords. It wasn't serving him, and he walked away. And I think people who are selfless in a way like that will always succeed, because you're not doing it for monetary gain, fame, you know what I mean? And when you recognize that, like, oh my gosh, my passion is gone, I gotta go like deal with this. I think that just shows also how much respect and honesty and authenticity and realness his gift of singing is to him, and that he knows it is a gift, and to use it in vain is such a disservice to himself before anybody else. So the beginning of this interview made me love this man for who he is as a person. Forget the artistic side of things, the performer side of things. I'm like, holy cow, this is a selfless human who would step aside, probably at the advice of many people to tell him not to. He's like, it's not serving me. I love it. Okay, let's go.
And I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was going to do or where I was going to go. All I knew is that I can't keep doing what I'm doing. I need to just stop, because this is not going anywhere good.
Were drugs a part of this? Women a part of this?
Certainly drugs and drinking were a part of it, of course, yeah. I mean, that came with the times, you know. It's a funny thing about success. When you do get a chance to finally live that dream that you wanted when you were 7 years old, 8, 9, 12 years old, and you get it. Now, I'm not complaining, Dan. I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you my heart. When you finally get that, and you're loving it, it's kind of at some point, a little bit of a luster starts to wear off over and over again if you keep touring and keep turning the same wheel over and over again.
That's why they say the only place to go when you're like at the highest is down. Because where else do you go when you are the front man of Journey? Do you know what I'm saying? I think I love that he acknowledged that there were some vices that led to this, and he's not shying away from the honest truth, his truth, which is, I indulged, and that probably did have something to do with it. I think it's all so honest and candid, which I think we need more of, especially for our youth today that aspire to be famous. Like, fame is the goal, and it's just like 90% of the celebrities you see today are so unhappy. They're so unhappy, and they're the most famous, well-known, maybe even richest people, and they're so miserable. This is good.
And I think it leaves room for the opportunity for other enhancements, dare I say, to replace some of the lack of luster that it once had.
I
So
love
you walk
that.
away.
Luster.
I walked away.
Did you ever? What did you do?
Did you ever?
I bought a Harley Davidson in Visalia, California, because my hometown was Hanford, California, about 18 miles away. And I would drive that Harley in the summertime. Back
Excuse
then,
me, had you been into motorcycles before?
no, I decided that was going to be my new passion, was motorcycles.
Okay.
So I bought this Harley, and there was no helmet law back then, and my long hair was flying 20 feet in back of me, and I rediscovered parts of my life that I completely forgot about. For instance, the Central San Joaquin Valley can get up to 110, 112 degrees every summer. But when you're riding a motorcycle by an alfalfa field, the alfalfa fields on both sides of the motorcycle drops at sometimes 10 degrees. You feel like you're in an air-conditioned environment. And I thought, well, I remember that when I was a kid. So I was reconnecting with my childhood and actually reconnecting with the loss of my mother that I'd lost. She had died before, and went out to visit other departed relatives pretty regular to try to just connect with my life where it is right at that time.
Wow. He is so descriptive in his storytelling that you can place yourself exactly where he was. The alfalfa field visual. I don't even know what the freaking alfalfa is other than... What's the movie? The He-Man Woman Hater Club. Why am I drawing a blank? Alfalfa. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Little Rascals. Jesus. Other than that, is it a flower? Anyway, it was so descriptive. To me, this is so indicative of a true creative, a true artist that sometimes has to flee to find themselves again, because when you become an artist, and I can't even imagine at that magnitude, that level of fame, how much you lose who you are, and you're surrendered to the expectation of your fans and the expectation of your label and your bandmates and like who everyone wants you to be. And so then you play the part, you become a character in your own life. So to flee, I think true creatives often have to cocoon and rebirth to stay the true creative that they were born to be. And I'm saying that from a very familiar place. I say this all the time on this channel. I've had like 9 lives, and I feel like each one of them I had to rebirth myself into a different season. And this feels so, I just understand this. It's so relatable to me. But I love the way he speaks in such a detailed, descriptive way that it really makes you like understand and sympathize with his need to like escape the fame. Holy cow, this is good.
Connect with
this
my
is
life
church.
where it is right at that time. Because when you re-enter the earth's atmosphere of your life after a ride like that, you got to do something. You got to ground yourself somehow. So I did a lot of that.
But
We're here,
you
Steve.
were off for a long while. You can only ride the motorcycle so often. You can only visit with your relatives and even your parents' graveside for often. What else did you do? Did you develop a hobby? Did you develop a...
I'll tell you what I did not do is I couldn't go near music because I had this PTSD thing with music still going on. It was very, very uncomfortable for me. And I was afraid that the passion for music would never come back. So because of that, I just left it alone and thought I'd already lived the dream of dreams. There's nothing much more to do and in that area. And so I'll just leave it alone. And then time goes on. I ran into somebody. Patty Jenkins became a friend of mine, a brilliant director who ended up directing the movie Monster with Charlize Theron. She got a hold of my attorney and wanted to use Don't Stop Believin', so we all had to agree to the song being used in the movie Monster. And we became great friends. One time...
Was that Halle Berry in that movie with Charlize? I never saw it because when it came out, I was too young. I wasn't able to watch. I was too young and I was too religiously sanctified in the church to even be able to watch something like that. But I feel like wasn't Halle Berry, isn't that what she won her Oscar for? Wasn't that like the big deal of it all? I don't know. This is such a good story. I need to see this whole interview. It's such a good interview.
In the movie Monster. And we became great friends. One time Patty was working on this Lifetime special called Five, and it was about a cancer survivor. And I was watching the editing process and everything, and there was this woman in this moment in the patio of the hospital, and it was just the cameras panning across, and the narrators talking about the people who are surviving their cancer, and they all look like they're doing fine, having lunch in the patio of the hospital. And I said, go back to, who is that? And she said, well, that's Kellie Nash. I said, well, who's Kellie Nash? She said, well, she's a PhD psychologist that has friends, and I just put real cancer patients, because she has had cancer, but she's she's doing okay. And I said, well, do you have her email? Patty looked at me funny because she knows I don't do that. So I said, yeah, do you have her email? And she said, why? I said, I don't know. There's something about her. I don't know. I'd love to send her an email, take her to lunch or something. Is it possible? Just tell your friend Steve would love to take her to lunch. So she does that.
Just tell her casually, your friend Steve. This man feels like he's so deeply connected to his beliefs. I don't know if he's Christian or he's spiritual or whatever, but he feels so deeply connected. I genuinely mean this when I say I hate to keep bringing myself into this, but I relate to it so much. Just 2 days ago, my husband and I and one of our kids, because the other one wasn't in town, went out to eat. And on the way to the restaurant, I made eye contact with this homeless man who was walking across the street, like towards our car, but across the street. And I looked down at his feet, and he didn't look, immediately homeless, if that makes any sense. Like, he had on jeans and a t-shirt, but I looked down at his feet, and he had on sneakers, but the bottom of the sneakers was worn out I could see his toes touching the ground. Like, the top of his toes were covered, but I could see that the soles of his feet were exposed to the concrete. And like, I think I had a moment in my mind, and then we kept driving and we pulled into the parking lot of the restaurant. And I said, oh my God, babe, you have sneakers in the trunk that we were literally trying to find somewhere to donate. Like, oh my gosh, y'all, it was devastating me. It haunted me the entire dinner, because I'm like, why didn't I think of that before we pulled off? Like, why didn't I think about the fact that we had 6 pair of basketball sneakers, and the man looked like he was probably the same height as my husband, probably could wear these shoes, size maybe 11, 10 and a half, 11 and a half, I don't know. It crushed me. We left the restaurant and we were supposed to go one way to drop off the items. And I asked him to go back the way we saw the homeless man, and maybe we'd see him like sitting somewhere, ducked off somewhere. And I mean, when I say like my heart was shattered, so I understand this, how like you can see someone and immediately feel connected or called to connect. or reach out to them or bless them, or I don't know, anything. Those moments are so real, but I think you have to be truly connected to yourself, your beliefs, and have some place in your heart for empathy, to feel someone's need, and not a physical need or a tangible need. Sometimes it is just, let's go have lunch, and sometimes people will leave you and be like, I really needed that. I really like Steve Perry, and now I really understand where everybody has been coming from. I really am so grateful that this came upon my feed. I really think he is a stand-up human being. And I understand when you are someone who is, just in tune, I think things like massive fame can be overwhelming for you. So much so that you're willing to walk away from it because, like he said, he's like, I experienced it all. Like, I really just wanted to have a real life experience. Wow. Guys,
Thing is it possible? Just tell your friend Steve would love to take her to lunch. So she does that. And I wait on pins and needles for 2 weeks. And the next thing I know, I get an email back and I'm over the moon. And
they met
one night,
they met
and we were
some.
inseparable after that. So there was a lot going on in my life, but nothing like this had happened. She was 3 years fighting breast cancer, but you'd never know it. PhD psychologist, brilliant.
She's beautiful.
And we were inseparable for the time we were together, which was 1.5 years approximately until she passed away 6 years ago.
Take my heart out of my Jesus, take me to the King. Oh my gosh. First of all, when he said he met someone, I thought maybe they just connected as friends because he felt like, her story resonated. I didn't see a relationship coming out of it. I certainly did not see that this lady would then I need a moment. I'm going to cry. I have a lump in my throat. My God.
We were together, which was 1.5 years approximately until she passed away.
Why do good
6 years
people
ago.
have the
there was
worst
just
things
this other
happen to them?
layer of connection. And in fact, I told her, I feel like I've always known you. I used to tell her I loved you before I met you. I love you now, and I always will. Because that's what it felt like. It was so familiar.
How did this affect you? Having this love affair with her, the likes of which you say you never experienced before or since. And what'd you learn from that?
He's a great interviewer. I know his face. I don't know his name.
You know that, don't you? If somebody hasn't told.
Why are Steve Perry and I the same human? This is Dan. Dan, what's his last name? I know him. I think I'm super alert and paying a lot of attention right now because this interview is so fantastic. The answers and the questions, fantastic.
You're good at this, Dan. You know that, don't you? If somebody hasn't told you that, they should tell you again. It has severely.
He has a wedding ring on.
I was pretty much in isolation before I met her. And she pulled me out of isolation. And emotional isolation and even physical isolation. One night we were together and she said, honey, I need to ask you something. If something was ever to happen to me, will you make me one promise? I said, well, what's that? My favorite time is when we'd talk each other to sleep in the dark, and that was that night's conversation. I said, what's that? She said, if something was to happen to me, promise me you won't go back into isolation. For I think it would make this all for naught. And I just thought, that statement was so huge. It was like she was looking at her whole life, being diagnosed, her struggle during the struggle of cancer, and the possibility of us not being together has to have some kind of meaning. And I made the promise. So that's how the last record came about.
My God.
I kept the promise, and I dedicated the record to her.
What's the name of the record and what do I need to react to? Tell me right now, my good, gracious Jesus. I need to hear it because if that is where it was birthed out of, I know it's the greatest thing on earth. Y'all, this has just rocked me, rattled me, changed me forever. I mean it. I mean it.
That's
I mean
how
it.
the last record came about. I kept the promise, and I dedicated the record to her. And I'm talking to you now. I'm doing everything I can to not fall back into isolation again because I made a promise.
Jesus. I'm not well. I am not well. I am unwell. All right, I think I need to like go process a little bit. This was enjoyable, informational, informative. It was eye-opening. It was gut-wrenching. It was soul capturing. It was enlightening. It was blessed. So much lack for words. I can't even speak right now. I'm gonna go. Thank you to the algorithm gods for bringing this one to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I am excited to read your thoughts, your comments, your concerns, and I hope you have the day that you deserve.